Thank you.
Tori is the founder of her first 100K. You know what I mean? She's doing her thing. She's not playing no games. Now, Tori, she's the founder of her first 100, a financial education company dedicated to empowering women. To empower women to achieve financial independence as a prominent voice in the personal finance. Tori inspired audience globally to take control of their money and pursue wealth on their own terms. I hear you're the #1 business podcast in the country. Tell me how it felt when you got the news. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Business podcast.
I love beating the Brads and the Chads. It's my favorite thing.
Okay.
Every time we hit the top of the charts, it's just incredible because it proves to me that this sort of information is not only needed, but should be the default. Information for women, people of color, queer folks, disabled people.
Yes.
This sort of inclusivity should be the kind of default. But we look at the landscape, especially in business and personal finance, right? We're looking at like Dave Ramsey,
Yes.
who was just dominating the space for so long, but we need that inclusivity. We need to have conversations about not only how to make money, but also the systemic factors that go into it. So every time it happens, it's just so humbling.
How was it for you starting your podcast as a woman?
Yeah.
By yourself?
I mean, it was crazy. Literally did it with like, the $99 microphone off of Amazon. And was just like, let's see what happens. And shot the podcast art with a friend and had a, company before then that we had built up, and that was so helpful if you're out there trying to build a podcast. Like having some sort of audience before who trusts you and who you've already tested content with is really helpful, so you know how to approach them and how to reach them. And literally within 48 hours of us debuting, we were the top podcast in the country on both Apple and Spotify.
Now make some noise for that.
Thank you.
Now let me explain something to you. Desiree, she gave me some game on Tori because she was already tapping to her. I DM'd Tori. I said, listen, I need you. She came for free. Make some noise to that. And I think it's important that you reach out. I reached out, she saw the value, she came, and this is what it is. Now, how are you able to engage effectively with your audience and develop content tailored to their needs?
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to do whenever you're trying to build anything is, how do I provide value for the people I'm trying to serve? And I say this all the time, I wish I could tattoo it on my forehead, but serve before you sell. We often think, okay, we can build, this company and it's the best company or it's the best product and people will come that way. That's not how it works. We need to have a service-based mindset. How can I add value to somebody's life, right? And what I realized is that if I was looking at this financial system that was largely straight white men, and all the friends all of my friends were coming to me for financial advice and guidance, maybe that was how I could provide value. And fun fact about me, I studied communications and theater in college. I didn't study business, I didn't study finance, but I knew that I had this privilege of a financial education that I could share with other people. So always keep in mind, how do you serve before you sell? And I know we'll talk about this in a second too. I also need you to keep in mind that trying to be everything to everybody makes you nothing to nobody.
You heard that? Say that again, please.
I'm saying it. Trying to be everything to everybody makes you nothing to nobody. Because we think, I'm just getting started, right? Or I'm trying to grow my following, or I'm trying to get more downloads, or I'm trying to get more people to see me. Okay, I need to be for everybody, right? And I remember the first time, this was 2019, that my work and my story caught some traction. We were on this financial website. We got 1 million views in a week, and that, especially back then, was crazy. And I thought, okay, this is it. But then the comments were all of these guys named Steve who were in their 50s and 60s being like, I don't get it, this isn't for me, why does she have to make this a feminist thing? And I was like, oh, I got it. I figured it out. Because I had a turning point there. I could either say, somebody doesn't like me and doesn't like what we do, and I just potentially alienated a bunch of these people. But that wasn't my target audience, right? For me, it was largely women. It was people who understood that we had to have conversations about the intersectionality of personal finance in addition to how to budget and how to invest. And so that was that moment where I was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on, one, providing value, and two, to the people that I know I can impact. And if somebody comes to your podcast and doesn't know what it's about, who it's for, you're not doing it correctly. We need to know immediately, this is either for me or it's not for me. And there's gonna be people that your work is not for. That's okay, right? So trying to be everything to everybody makes you nothing to nobody.
That's good. Can you tell the audience how important consistency in messaging and branding when you are first getting started?
Yeah, I will say, literally, I've been watching, everybody speak today. Get started, right? That's the fallacy is that you think you need the perfect brand color and the perfect branding and the perfect website.
Logo.
Like, you don't. I remember starting this business now, that is a global multi-million-dollar business, started with like me launching a blog in my apartment in 2016 that
You launched the blog on
Squarespace. Like, it was just like, it was nothing, right? But like, you learn by going, and so you just have to start. I think with branding, one thing that I've really been proud of is that there is a cohesive brand no matter what part of our brand you touch, if that makes sense. Like, everything feels very similar. And actually, like, a very perfect example of this is if you've ever heard me speak before, if you've ever seen one of my videos, I wear this lipstick. I've worn this lipstick since 2018, 2019. This is the brand color I chose for my company, was the lipstick I wore every day. Because I was like, if I show up in photos in this lipstick, or if I show up on stage in this lipstick, you might not remember my name, but you might remember, personal finance, 100K, whatever. And when you Google me, you're gonna see this lipstick and you're gonna be like, oh, that's her. That's her, right? So even something as simple as that of like, how can you stand out visually? It is like a $15 Sephora lipstick. It's called Blackberry Sorbet, and it became our brand color. And so like something like that of how can you maintain the same vibe, the same feeling, the same connection, no matter what platform you're on. The other thing that we did really well intentionally was our podcast is called Financial Feminist. My book that is now a New York Times bestseller is also called Financial Feminist.
Make some noise, y'all.
Thank you. But did that on purpose, right? Because anytime you Google Financial Feminist or you look it up in Spotify, well, I didn't know this was going to be the case, but Spotify does audiobooks now. So if you look up Financial Feminist, well, you're going to find my book.
Spotify, when they started audiobooks?
Like 2 months ago, a couple months ago. So they literally, if you look up Financial Feminist, right, you've got the book, you've got the podcast. And so that it doesn't have to be something new every time. You don't need to start a new Instagram account every time you launch something new. Most of it, if not all of it, can live under the same brand name.
What are some creative ways to leverage community building and word of mouth marketing to organically build a podcast reputation?
Yeah, I know this is similar for you. I'm really proud I've never paid for an ad. Like, we have 4 million followers across our platforms. Like, I think I ran Facebook ads for like a weekend, and I was like, no, this is not gonna work. So we have built it all organically, built our social following, our podcast, all of that. I think, again, serving before you sell is so important. In terms of creating content, whether this is podcasts, but specifically social media content linking back to your podcast, and if you're not taking notes, I need you to write these 3 things down. If you create content that is educational, aspirational, and entertaining, your content will probably go viral. Educational, aspirational, entertaining, right? Educational, did you teach them something, right? That's the value piece. Did they get something out of that, right? Did they get something out of following you after engaging with you? Whether that was a 60-second video, whether that was a 25-minute YouTube video, whether that was a podcast episode, did they learn something, right? Did they have an aha moment, or did they have something that they can take away with, right? Education. Aspirational. You want them to look at you or look at the show or look at whatever you're talking about and go, I want that. I want that life. I want to feel that way. Or on the flip side, I don't want to feel this way anymore. Right? You'll see this on like any good sales page for any sort of product, right? You'll see the, Terry was down in the dumps and had a terrible life, and now she's, working in Puerto Rico and only works 5 hours a week, right? Like, you have to give them the feeling of either I want that or I want to stop feeling that way so I can feel this way. So aspirational. And then entertaining, right? Are you going to stay, right? Are you going to stay and actually care about what they have to say? And we don't have to do like something crazy like, a Zach King or something like that, but like, is it entertaining enough to make them stay? And I don't know if you talked about this today, but especially on social media, you have about 3 seconds to make that happen. Like, that is not a lot of time. You have 3 seconds to make that happen. So when we're talking about building organically and creating content, what can you do in that first 3 seconds? And I'll give you an example. One of my most viral posts I ever did, it was like 6 million views on TikTok, another couple million on Instagram. But the thing that was really cool is that I got 100,000 email subscribers in a week from that one video. And here's what I did. I literally said, I'll have $6 million by the time I'm set to retire, and I'm only 26. Let's talk. And I'm not 26 anymore, this was a couple years ago, but you can see with that hook, right? Oh, I want money. She's a millionaire. I want to learn from her, right? Quick hook, educational. You're about to learn how, right? And you're going to stay for the whole video, right? You're going to stay for the whole video.
How long was the video?
60 seconds, and probably less, like 58. And fun fact, I did that spontaneously with no script. I had no makeup on. We were talking before with Brian, like nothing has to be productionalized if you don't have the resources right now. My second viral video, or like my second biggest viral video that we did this past summer, literally filmed it before I went and saw the Barbie movie in like a ball cap and the makeup. Like don't overthink it either. Like you can pop up, say what you need to say, check those 3 boxes, and your content will probably do great. Ooh, well it was TikTok, so there was no like title, right? So I think I just said 6 million by 26 in the screenshot, and then did like the question mark and the exclamation point. But like that hook was really what made it. But then that's a great question in terms of the caption was then to get this free resource that's linked in my bio. And the free resource, I gave them the free resource in exchange for their email. That was 100,000 email subscribers in a week from that one video.
How important is emails? Because people need to understand.
Oh, let's talk about that.
I got a bank of them.
Free, I love your question.
Hold the question.
Free resource was a quiz that we built. It's still on our website. You can go to herfirst100k.com/quiz and literally see what we're doing. We ask you questions about your money personality, and in exchange for what your personality is and free resources, we ask for your email. But email, let's talk about that. And by the way, the video that I was just talking about, that went out in April. Our podcast launched in May. So you can't really time virality, but like good time to go viral. Email is absolutely crucial. And if you're not thinking about that as part of your strategy, you need to, because Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, as great as all of these platforms are, they can change their algorithm, and frankly, you're screwed, right, if they change their algorithm. But something happened to me literally like a month ago. Instagram took my account down. We have 1.5 million followers, they just took it down. And I was panicking, and my team was panicking, and we got it back up in a couple hours, but we lost revenue for every minute it was down, right? So when you're thinking about an email list, that is land you own. Every other time you're building on social media, you are building on borrowed land. Now sometimes we have to, right? I'm not here with a social media focused business. Sometimes you've got to. But if you're not thinking about email as part of your strategy or other things that you own, start thinking about that too.
What are some effective strategies for building a brand organically without relying on paid advertisers? And I had that in common.
Right. We were kind of just talking about this, right? This organic content piece of how to produce organic content. You also want to think about, because a podcast is part of an all-encompassing business, right? So if you haven't done a customer persona, right? Literally writing down who is your ideal customer? Who is your ideal listener? I know mine. Her name is Danielle. She's 29. She lives in New York. She went to Schitt's Creek. She makes roughly $70K a year. I know exactly who our customer is. And if you don't know who your customer is yet or your ideal listener, start there, your customer persona. And then 2, think about your customer journey. Where does somebody discover you? And where do you want them to go after they discover you? And then where do you want them to go after that? Right? And that's part of the email strategy, right? If somebody comes in on Instagram or comes in on TikTok or comes in on YouTube, well, I don't want them to just see one post and go away. I want them to follow, right? That's the first step. And then I want them to go, oh, well, I learned something from that. Where can I learn more? Oh, I want to go to her podcast. I want to read her book, right? That is the second or third step of the customer journey. And then eventually we want to interact with them to get them paying for a product, right? So if you haven't thought about where do you want your customer to go, that's a really, really crucial part, especially in building any sort of online brand, is where do they discover me? Where do they find me? And then how do I get them from point A to point B, from point B to point C?
I want you to open it up for questions. I want 3 ladies to ask Tori anything. I know, brother. We got somebody else for that, brother. No problem, man. Please, man. Take it easy, man. I mean, you know about martial arts. 3 ladies, raise your hand. Come here, sister. You first. Right there, sister. Yeah, you. Get up here, because I might have something for you. Right there. Come here, sister. Come right up there. Right there, sister. No, see, you play. Sit down. You want to play. You want to be too cute. Get right there, sister. I'm stand. You stand right there. All right, y'all 3. Come here, sister. Come on up here. Stop that shit, Nev. Yeah, sit down, sister. Go ahead, sit down. Cause you playing, man. Come up here. We ain't got time.
Hello, family. I would like to thank you all for this opportunity. And my name is Karen, and I had a heart attack April 2019. And then August 2019, I had double bypass heart surgery. I went on YouTube and I started a YouTube channel, Miss Karen's Heart. And I told my story because I wanted other people, and I'm an ex-smoker. So I wanted to share my story. I wanted to share my story with people, and hopefully I can help somebody. And a lot of people said they couldn't watch it because it was so sad, but I needed to. I cried all the time because I'm just so grateful that God gave me an opportunity, because I had the surgery on one day, and I woke up 5 days later because they had to put me in an induced coma because I had an allergic reaction. So I was really grateful to be here. So I started cycling, right? And I fell in love. So I want to do something, and I want to share how joyous cycling has, how much joy it has brought me. So my question is, how can I reach out to vendors or people of such, so that I can get that, I advertise for people, right? Like that's what I want to know. How can I do that? How can I reach more people? Because they say, my cardiologist said, Karen, you need to share with our community because heart disease is high among African American women. And that's the platform that you should tap into. So that's the platform that I'm trying to tap into. And so, which is why I started Miss Karen's Heart.
I love that. Karen, thank you for your vulnerability.
Hold up, people sign a copy of Tori's book. Thank you, sister.
Yeah, I love this question. One of the best ways to get your name out for anything you're trying to do is to start pitching people who can tell your story, right? We're talking about press. So I've done New York Times, Good Morning America, Today's Show, all of these, and I only had a publicist for like the 3 months of my book launch. Almost every opportunity I got has been me literally messaging people. So you can find reporter contacts and just email them, message them on Instagram, message them on Twitter, and there's a pitch formula to do that. So if I'm taking Karen's example, I'm going to say something like, hi, ex-reporter, right? I would love to tell you a bit about my story, right? Exactly what she just told me. Is there any way that I can come on and tell it? Start with your local news. Start with Philly, and then branch out from there, right? But literally, reporters are on Twitter. They're on Instagram. Go to the producer or the reporter. Don't go to like, the Philadelphia account, official account, but go to the reporter, go to the producer. That's a great way to start telling your story, to get your name out there. And what happens then, right, if you get a significant press hit, is that you can reutilize that forever, right? You can say, oh, I was in this particular press outlet. That helps build your credibility, but it also helps people discover you as well. I also know a couple people at Peloton, and I should connect you to them.
Hey Tori, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous because I've been following you for a long period of time now.
What's your name?
My name is Chemistry on Instagram. I am Chemistry.
Yeah, I've
love
been
it.
following you for a while.
Oh, thank you.
I've read the book, I listened to the podcast. Everything has been extremely inspiring for me. And so I truly, genuinely thank you. Even one of the things in Financial Feminist, you talked about, negotiating your value. And it was one of the tools that I actually used to raise my value in my job. So I thank you for that, first and foremost. Had to say. Secondly, I have two podcasts. One that I have with my best friend Queena here called Life We Chose. It's a self-help podcast. We kind of guide people through, mental health and different things. And I'm starting a podcast called Confront Your Money. And it's highly inspired by, a lot of the things I've learned from you. But one of the questions I have is, in starting this money journey, it's a little nerve-wracking because you don't know what's on the other side yet. So when you started her first 100K, what was it like telling people, I'm going to save $100,000 and this is how I'm going to do it before knowing that was going to be the thing?
Yes. I love this question. Congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
Fun fact, my father is actually here. He's sitting in the wings, and he goes Take Your Dad to Work Day, which was very fun. He was in town, and I was like, come along with me. But literally, we had a phone call where, I was 24, so if you don't know my story, part of her first 100K, goal was me, or the brand was me saving 100K at 25 years old. And I kind of made that for lack of a better word, my shtick for a while. It got me on Good Morning America, got all this press. But before I did it, right, I said, I'm going to do this. And my dad called me and he's like, what if this doesn't happen? Like, you've made this promise, what if it doesn't happen? And I'm like, well, then I have 80K, or I have 60K. And there's that moment of vulnerability that I can't say, you know what, we tried and we didn't get quite there, but we're still doing okay. And I think that's one part of vulnerability as a business owner is so incredibly important, especially if you get people to care about your journey as well, right? So in me tracking the journey to 100K, right, it was me sharing, we're gonna see how we do this month with our budget and with how much we earn, right? So you felt, and maybe you were with us at that point in the journey, but maybe you felt okay, I'm watching this with her, right? It's almost like a countdown, or I guess a count up, right? To see is she gonna make it? Is it gonna happen, right? So it gets people bought in. And the other thing too, let's say I didn't make it. Okay, I don't think anybody was gonna unfollow me, right? It was still a significant milestone, and it was something that was part of the general brand and the general story. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable and, to say when things aren't going so well or when you need help. Ask for help, please, especially our women in our audience. Ask for help, be vulnerable. Everybody should know you have a business. Everybody should know you have a podcast. If you are not talking about it almost obnoxiously all of the time, everybody needs to know what's going on with you, right? And if I had waited to my 100K goal, well, I would have only had, let me say, a couple days of press or a couple days of intrigue. Instead, I had a year. I had 2 years, right? So hopefully that's helpful. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's my rule. You don't sign copy system. What's your question?
Thank you, Walla. Hello, everybody. My name is Overflow, and I started my podcast. I'm trying to start it up. I got something going. I originally was an artist, am an artist, and I use that platform to talk about music. And just with artists, upcoming artists, celebrities, myself, anybody that's a consumer, music, period. So you could come on. We wind up doing aspirational speeches as well, educational. I'm an audio engineer, so I tell them information about that as well. It's spelled OVAFLOH if anybody want to follow me. I want to know, I do events as well. I do it on the outside all over New York City. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'll be all over New York City. So I'm trying to see how come I only got 2K followers on Instagram? How come I only got a few hundred views on YouTube? And I'm outside. I believe in guerrilla tactic. Guerrilla tactic is when you on them corners. You're not just posting. You outside handing CDs or videos or whatever and spitting your crap. So my question is, where do I go from here?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I was where you are in like 2019. Early days, I was literally very similar. I was like 4,000 followers. I could not break 4,000 on Instagram. And I was doing everything right. I was posting every day, and I was hashtagging, and I was doing all the things they tell you to do, right? And the thing was, for me, again, we were talking about before, getting really clear as to who your audience is, right? That's, if you haven't figured out exactly who is your listener and how do I talk to them and appeal to them, start there. That was one thing I was doing wrong. Was, again, I was trying to appeal to everybody. And before her first 100K was her first 100K, it was called Victory Media. My full name is Victoria. It was a play off my name, right? But you didn't know what that was. You didn't know that that was financial. You didn't know it was for women. You didn't know it was, feminist and intersectional. You had no idea what it was. So if you haven't gotten crystal clear as to who you're trying to appeal to, start there. And truly, I know that this is going to be a frustrating answer, but if you're doing everything right, you just got to keep going. It's just that consistency. And the thing about overnight successes, right, is that they look overnight because we just discovered them last night, right? You're like, where has this person been the entire time? Like, oh, I'm just following them. They must have just blown up. And it's like, no, I'm out here for years. Like, I'm out here for years. And that was something on TikTok on 2020. We just like blew up on TikTok and everybody's like, wow, this is quick. And I was like, no, I've been doing this for literal years. So if you're posting every day, if you know who your customer is, if you're honed in and very specific as to how you can provide value for people, truly just keep going. It's gonna happen.
I wanna appreciate you for coming, Tori. Appreciate you for coming, sharing the knowledge, for reaching back right out here with me. I'm so thankful that you came to educate, the audience, the community, and I appreciate you. We're gonna find new ways and more things to do. Thank you so much. Make some noise for Tori.
Shout out my nigga Ace, man. One of the lifelines of this culture, man. As a battle rapper, we look forward to these reviews, gangster.
What up, though? It's Calico, Landslide, fucking with Dedication TV. Subscribe to the network.
Rusa, don't forget the extra 8, man. Shout out to the Brody, man. Shout out to Dedication TV.
Shout out my nigga Ace, man. Me being from New Orleans, I'm a super Lil Wayne fan, so I could appreciate anything dealing with the dedication.